Hello, and I'm coming live just a few minutes early to give people time to jump on and for Sarah to be able to jump on as well. And as people do that, I just want to say hello. I'm Cassie, I'm from the Carer's Place, and really excited to have an informal chat with you tonight, and particularly Sarah, who is from Plan Tracker. So we'll just wait for her to hop on in, and here she is now. So let's see if we can get you in.
How are we going?
Oh, there she is. Yay.
Sorry. Oh, my light. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome, Sarah.
There we go. Welcome. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Your light's a little bit bright, but we can hear you just fine. So, and Janet says hello to you too, Sarah. So I can see the comment, but we can hear you just fine. So,
okay.
And Janet says hello to you too, Sarah. So I can hear myself.
Thanks for your patience. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay.
I'm just going to talk for a little minute and see if I get the feedback, because initially I was getting the feedback, but I think we're okay now. Yep, all good. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here. Hi, Kylie. So Sarah, I'm not sure if you can see the comments or not, but I can, so I can reiterate. That's fine. So I just want to do a little bit of an intro. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here. Everybody, Sarah is from Plan Tracker. She's the founder of Plan Tracker. And I'll let Sarah really explain what Plan Tracker is in a minute. But we just wanted to, I guess, have or host an informal conversation about the NDIS and I guess the benefits in essence of plan management, but the difference between, you know, the different ways that you can manage your NDIS plans first, and what the pros and cons are of each of those, and then how also Plan Tracker can really help you move forward with things as well. And just, I guess, give a little bit of experience from both of our perspectives of the NDIS. You know, no one knows absolutely everything about the NDIS. It's an incredibly complex system, and we're still all feeling our way through it. I am doing some support coordination for people, and you know, that's been a huge learning curve for me, but also being the parent of a recipient on the NDIS has added that extra element, and I'm sure Sarah is very much the same. And you know, my knowledge base 2 years ago is extraordinarily different to what it is now, and I guess that's why both of us are here, is to really share our experiences, so that you maybe don't have to go through some of the tougher stuff or the harder stuff that we have had to, but also so you can avoid some of those things and really, I guess, get the best out of your experience for yourself and for the people that you're caring for as well, so we can kind of avoid some of that overwhelm and burnout that you can really get from, you know, being part of this system. So Sarah, welcome. Did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you've already done that, and a little bit about Plan Tracker, and then we'll talk about the differences between how we can manage our NDIS plans.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Cassie. So as I mentioned in the video, I have 2 young children, 2 boys who are on the scheme, age 7 and 9. And I think that is how I came to be working in this sort of area. And I guess my real focus is really making the most of the NDIS scheme in relation to self-direction. And I think we can talk about self-management, which is a form of managing your NDIS, and we can talk about plan management and things like that, which I sort of see as slightly smaller, but the bigger picture is self-direction, which is talking about how it fits into our whole entire life. Yeah, it's making choices that are based on our values. It's having choices, where we can choose things that are important to us and important for us, and so that we can get on with living. We call it the good life, you know, but really what that is a typical life, making choices that are important to you. So there's a couple of different ways, I guess, it would fit into the NDIS. So I think that we're going to talk in broad principles, and I think it's really important to understand some overarching principles about how the NDIS is structured and what type of choices you have in there. And I know there's probably going to be something, there always is when I, talk in a group, there's always going to be someone says, oh, but that wasn't my experience, or my lack, or my planner, or something, or I rang the NDIA and they told me something else. And so our very typical experience is that if you call the NDIS 5 times, on the same question, you'll get 5 different answers. Yep. So let's just try and understand that in the background, but then try and work our way forward. So some of the information I'm going to be talking about is principles and how it's supposed to be run. And then there's going to be this little side note, which is, but actually this is what's happening. And the way around that is X, Y, Z, or we don't really know, but I'll give you some experiences of what other people are doing. Whether it works for you or not. So there's a little bit of risk taking, and there's a little bit of like being fair. What's that?
Creativity as well, and like any legislation, is very much open to interpretation and specific, to your circumstances too, right?
Absolutely. And there is an element of also in self-management and plan management, you do have a degree of flexibility, but comes with it a greater responsibility. And as long as you're clear, you're covering off, your responsibilities according to the guidelines, then I say go for it. And don't ask for too much permission. Don't ask for permission on every little thing. Just be really clear about where your responsibilities lie. And then go ahead and make your decisions. Don't spend too much time on the hotline, because it is literally at the moment we're wading through murky waters, I guess, a little bit. So what about I spend a little bit of time talking about the 3 different methods of management? Do you think that's a good time now to jump into that?
Yeah, let's do that, because it really does set the scene. And for a lot of people, that I have spoken to recently, they're generally agency managed, and they're very, very scared of going down the line of plan or self. But we know with proper supports in place, this can be a really wonderful way to manage your NDIS plan. So yes, let's go through them first. So we can kind of set the scene.
So I think if a lot of people already have the experience of agency managed, they recognise that their plan is written and then they're looking for registered providers. So what you then do, your responsibilities in relation to administration or paperwork is signing that service agreement. And that service agreement outlines, I guess, the terms of business, what that provider's what service they're going to deliver, what line item, within your plan generally, or line items it will come under, the rate they're going to charge you, and also what type of service you've agreed to, whether it's 5 hours a week and that can kind of fluctuate, but they generally include some type of, okay, this is the starting arrangement. And it will also include all the terms of business in relation to what will attract additional charges. Those sort of unclear that may arise. So it's really, really important to ask that question and say, are these all the additional charges that potentially could come up? Because particularly in a therapy setting, you're looking at face-to-face time, but what about, the non-face-to-face time? What does that involve, and where would additional charges come from? And things like travel too. What sort of scenarios will travel be calculated at? So the other thing that also should be in there is cancellation policy. If you want to end service, or if you want to cancel an appointment or a session that's already been booked, then what is the notice period and what the cancellation fee. So all those general types of things should be in the service agreement. Once you've signed that, that's the end of your administration. Essentially, they'll take that and then make a service booking in the portal. So the reason I like to just spend a moment talking about service bookings, because we find a lot of families, they'll go along and engage services, and then all of a sudden they might go, oh, somebody comes back to them and says, sorry, I can't service you. I've gone to put your service booking into the portal and it says you don't have enough money. And they're like, what are you talking about? I've only just started. What's happening when a provider enters in a service booking in the portal, it's reserving a chunk of funding. Yeah. So it's not down on it, but it's reserving a chunk of funding for that provider for the life of the service agreement. Yeah. So I just urge people to think about that. And if it's not calculated in the service agreement, to have a little look at that and just, ask the question, how much will the service booking be? So that's the agency managed side of things. In relation to the jump to the other end, the self-managed is that you can choose anybody.
Just before you do, sorry, it's also my experience that people get their plans and they're agency managed or some other way, and they're so overwhelmed that they don't start anything. They don't know what to do, so the plan sits there. And so I just want to make a side note that if you're not sure, please ask one of us or someone else to help give you some guidance. It might only take 15 or 20 minutes just to clarify that plan and where you can go from here. But so many people are scared, and I just want to encourage people not to be scared and to please reach out, because that's what we're here for. Just a side note. Sorry, Sarah.
No, certainly. And I'll just explain, just for clarity, and they understand, because I do recognise, I do represent Plan Tracker, and they might think, oh, but if I ring and ask for help, then I might need to use Plan Tracker. And that's part of it. We do have a business, certainly, but we also have a community engagement side, which is what my responsibilities are, and that's really around information sharing. Okay, so what it would look like is that they either message me or email me or call me and say, hey, I have some questions about the plan. So I will ask you at that point in time, sure, do you want to read some information over the phone to me, or do you just want to give me some vague ideas? So what I would need to know is what support budgets you have.
Yes.
Capacity building, capital, core, what does it look like in those areas? Yeah. Some people feel comfortable just to shoot me a PDF or a JPEG of their plan. I feel that's a very, very personal thing, so I'll never, demand it but I will, if I haven't seen the plan, then I'll say, okay, well, if it's this, it would be this, and if it's that, then these are your choices. And then I would shoot you off a copy of your relevant price guide, just to give you the opportunity to refer back to where I've gotten the information from, because it's not about anybody being the expert. I'm absolutely not an expert in this. It's simply just showing where I get my information from and the pathway in order to answer the questions. So that's how it looks at my end in relation to that. And then if we give them some ideas around what potentially would fit in there, then we talk about, well, what really do you need in your life or your loved one's life? What is it you actually, really want? And that's a really broad question. And I will be honest, Cassie, a lot of people, it's a trigger, it can become overwhelming. Yeah. They don't know. So then we start with, well, what's currently being paid, or what supports do you have? Do they need to, and then we go, so we have a couple of challenges.
What are your challenges? Because if you can understand from our perspective what your challenges are and what you're facing day to day, then we can certainly help direct in a more appropriate way, rather than a broad range sort of conversation. So
yeah, and a lot of, and support coordinators too, when I connect with them a lot, they sort of say, well, these are the concepts, what do you think? And so it's kind of like joining two dots together. I'm like on the plan side, the piece of paper, funny, and they're over here doing that, and we sort of just kind of try to meet in the middle, which I think is, and that's what I love about this community, is that it doesn't rely on one person. It's a little bit of everybody chipping in. So we do also have some online budgeting tools, but there is also pieces of paper, because some people are not online. So we do have a very, very basic sort of template or spreadsheet. And all it's really designed is helping you with that thought process. Yeah, it's not a magic wand, but it just helps you. Okay, if I just go step by step and answer these questions in these boxes, and sort of and have a quick chat with me or you, it starts to form a picture. And what I would say also about Cassie about not starting is you do not have to have all the answers all at once. No. We all learn by and then going along. No decision is forever when it comes to these types of engaging supports. Yeah,
great. Sorry about the side note, but a really important discussion to have. So we've talked about agency, and so now if you want to continue with, plan and self.
Yeah, sure. So if we just jump to the other end, so agency, there's not a great deal of transparency, and there is limited options,
Rigid.
but you're sort of at the mercy. A few different things. So it's not just about what provider. It's also about what the support looks like, and I think that's massively important to recognise that it's not simply just choosing a disability provider that is unregistered in self-management. It's choosing whoever you want who's going to help you reach your goals. Okay, so in self-management you've got an enormous amount of choice and control, and as you go along, I think your choice and control really increases. I would say the more experience you get, the more you connect with your community around self-management, it grows. So as I said, don't be frightened to start. You just start where you're at, and it doesn't mean you have to go out and do the craziest things. It just means dip your toe in the water and think, hey, I've got some amazing people that I'm connected with in my community, in a community sense, like, in an informal sense, but I would really like to explore that relationship because it's powerful. Maybe I could employ them. Maybe I could employ them in a capacity building role. Maybe I could employ them in an access to community role, under core supports or things. So part of it is definitely finding out what other people are doing, but part of it is just don't overcomplicate it. If something's working and this help or this support is going to help you towards your plan goals, then start to think about, and if you feel like you want to run the idea past anyone, then of course, we're always here. But jump in, I'd say.
And the people that I have supported with, self, have definitely that degree of flexibility, but like you said, it's a little bit at a time. You don't have to take it all on all at once.
No, absolutely. See, the great thing is you're not tied to a service agreement. We do recommend it because it clarifies. It's a security around a relationship. Okay, so it's setting out in paper something you can go back to later if you need to bring something up. If you need to say, hey, it's in paper, and we find that's a really great thing to lower people's anxiety. If you've got to refer back to a conversation that was had at your doorstep or busy on the street or something like that, things can get muddy. And I know for myself, handling lots of administrative things and things in the community, and then my boys' supports, is there a chance that I've misunderstood? Absolutely. So sometimes, I'm really trying to get into a habit now. I have my service agreements, but I also, if there is a change of understanding and adjustment verbally, I say, it would really support me if you could put that in writing and shoot me an email.
Yeah, beautiful.
Nice
and simple.
And then we file away that. So you don't have to have everything. As it's going along, life is, evolving. If there's something new going on and whatever, capture it in written form, even if it's email, that's perfectly fine. If it got really difficult, Department of Fair Trading does recognise electronic email as being, as good as a contract. So
beautiful.
Do you want to go that way? So service agreements, but what you're not doing is your budgeting process is all your own. So you're not locking away anything in the portal, because remember, when you're going to the portal, you're just claiming down support by support as it's happened. So the budgeting set process is completely up to you, and it's fluid. It's with you day by day. So
and you're always going to know where you're at, pretty much. So as long as you're getting the invoices on time by your providers, of course.
So I just wanted to briefly touch on, Cassie, the audit process, because we do hear the word on the grapevine is a little whisper from the self-management team that it will begin, the auditing process nationally will start. And we don't know, it's going to be a spot check. So we believe it's something like a handful of claims. So a participant, a handful of claims will be taken from their portal, and then they will be delivered to you and saying, please provide, an audit trail for these claims that you took from, or that you processed on your funding.
So they just want evidence of service and of the invoice and that sort of thing. Is that what they're essentially looking for?
So definitely an invoice, really, really important. The other thing,
Guys.
if it's something, and that's why I also think it's really great to have a service agreement, because that would also say what you're
Yeah.
doing, what you're engaging this person for, and any other, as I said, anything else that you've agreed to or working out, I would put it in an email or some sort of formal, memorandum of understanding or something like that. So there's no secret, any formal, but use your common sense. That I was going to say to people, at the moment, we're not exactly sure how the auditing is actually going to take shape, but the most important thing is to have your invoice and that you've processed it. The other thing that it really depends on the support as well. Like, if there's some sort of sign-off sheet, if it's some sort of a worker or something like that, a support worker perhaps, then use that. Now, I just wanted to briefly mention, Cassie, I don't know whether many in your community are using a therapy assistant type role or anything like that. So you have your full, qualified therapist, whether it be physio, OT, speech, but perhaps they're also using an assistant role or an aid.
Yeah, I haven't had any, but I've actually got the question written down here about therapy assistants. So.
Okay. So at the moment, the agency is still forming some more formal communication around that. But what we understand is that role needs to be supervised. So in self-management, that's entirely up to you at the moment how that looks. So that doesn't necessarily mean you can just do whatever you like. It's up to you to show evidence that you have a supervisory, therapist, on staff or whatever, in contact, and that there has been some sort of program handover or clarification about what that therapy assistant or trained support worker, because you've got the flexibility, what they're actually doing, and evidence that there is some type of communication.
Okay, so they don't need visual supervision, but they need guidance and handover and specific tasks or outcomes to achieve, or tasks to implementation strategy, if you like, to work with the person with the disability. So they've got key milestones or what have you.
Yep. So some of my therapy assistants have come to the clinic, and I've evidenced that. I've gotten to sign on the invoice. The therapy assistant the uni student was with me this day, and they did observational, they did a verbal handover or whatever. Mm-hmm. I always take photos, and that's because my kids are very visual learners, and that's how they process all the information. But I'm finding that's my little backup to have. Obviously, the auditors aren't going to troll through JPEG photos. I mean, let's be real. But hey, you know what? I'm fully prepared in the first early years. I'm going to cover myself because this is really important. I don't want anyone to turn around, in the agency and say, hey, you can't do that because it doesn't meet plan goals. So I'm prepared at the moment to really go gung-ho to have the evidence there in order to, for me, I want to inform the agency. I want to push this forward and go, this is a real, for coming years, that this is a very valid type of support, and it's really flexible, and it's working for so many families. So I do a combined email as well, and I say, hey everyone, here's my latest videos of Spencer doing AAC work at home, blah, blah, this is where we're at. Thanks so much for XYZ, therapy assistant. And then here's blah, 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 and then and then confirm the next appointment or whatever when we're all going to meet, or, whatever it is. That's my evidence that I keep, aside from just a basic invoice. Yep. So I've got that running. In relation to audit, sorry, I pretty much covered it. Use your common sense, basically. If you're feeling that you're pushing the edge of reasonable and necessary, if you feel like you're pushing the edge, I would say have more backup. Cover yourself in more ways than one. But if you feel it's pretty standard and it's covered by an invoice, then that's all you need. Digital or paper, whatever. So should we jump to plan management?
Let's do that, because Liz, I see you've got a question there, but we'll come to that after we've covered plan management. So let's do plan management and then we'll come to the question.
So plan management sits kind of in the middle in my mind.
Yes.
It's kind of like self-management with support. You're not responsible for the administrative duties. So a plan manager is somebody that is registered with the agency to perform plan management, or it's called a financial intermediary. the really, really big thing that I wanted to say about plan management is it is your right, you know, and you do, and same with self-management. You do not have to prove, yeah, that that for some reason, you know, you are deserving or your need is high enough to receive one of these management, yeah. The other thing which we're finding in our local areas, they're saying, well, all your providers that, you know, you've got evidence from or whatever are registered, so you don't need plan management. So what I want to say to you, very, very formally and very publicly, it is not just about the providers registered or not registered with the agency. Plan management and self-management involves so much more choice and control than that. So if you feel confident that, yes, this is your pathway, then I would strongly suggest that you don't leave any doubt about it. You know, be really clear about it. You've done your research. This is what you need. And you're very, very clear on that point. So when you receive plan management, it will be a separate allocation of funding, and it will be called Improved Life Choices, and that's for the cost of engaging with a plan manager. So their primary duties are around administrative. Yep. So they handle everything between your providers and your portal, and they help, you know, obviously first and foremost is paying your providers. Absolutely. Yep. You know, they need to get paid. If they're paid, then they're happy. Things are running smoothly, and then hopefully things, you know, at your end in relation to service are running smoothly as well. So you engage a plan manager with a service agreement that they will complete those tasks for you. Some plan management, there is I guess a more detailed component of plan management, and that's really talking to you about, do you need any help with those sorts of things that Cassie spoke about before? Do you know how to use your funding? Have you got providers or supports that you want to go out and talk to about this and start some new relationships? And so it's a little bit of setup, you know, that kind of setup work. Obviously, when there's a coordinator of support involved, us as plan managers, that's fantastic, you know, because we get to focus on getting service agreements set up and getting arrangements so that all that admin work. And then we just want to, you know, have a great little network there, which is participant, coordinator support, and plan manager. Yeah. In order to make things really happen. Yeah.
Just to be really clear with everyone, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, but you can have a support coordinator under any, well, the LAC covers agency, is that correct? But a support or you can have a support coordinator under agency as well. Support coordinator is different. Yeah. Support coordinator is completely separate to however you manage your plan, okay? So if you are really overwhelmed about managing or being able to connect with the services that are in your area that you need for either for yourself, if you're managing a plan for yourself, or for someone else, then I'd highly recommend, particularly if it's your first or second plan, and maybe your first, you've just gone, oh, I don't know what to do, and your second, you've gone on, but you still don't know what to do, I would really insist on support coordination, at least for that first year, to help get you going, because the support coordinator isn't just there to help you with that role, but also to teach you how to be able to engage with providers and manage that process on your own moving forwards as well.
Yeah, that's right. And support coordination is not just an idea of how to get through this first year. Okay, it's a capacity building support, and it's not a matter, I heard this the other day, you can have plan management or support coordination. Which one do you want?
No.
And I just cringe. I absolutely cringe. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. And if you want to talk about, you know, if you do feel a little unclear about what type of things in your mind, you know, in your going into a conversation, a planning conversation perhaps, then I'm open to talking about those types of things as well. And what happens is I sort of sometimes just throw a few ideas out there or examples out there, and then people say, oh yeah, that resonates with me, that's sort of, you know, my situation, or no, I think, you know, this is more practical for me, or those types of things. So so there are some funny little things like that one, like plan management or coordination of supports. do you want? It is absolutely not. They are completely separate areas of funding. They're capacity building supports. They achieve different things. The other thing about the services and supports that a local area coordinator will complete. So I do recognise that it does change from area to area, depending on, because LHC is a role, but it's contracted out, or to different organisations all over Australia.
Much larger providers, not independent.
Yeah. Okay. So the other thing is that there's an enormous, there is an enormous workload in there, and apparently there is something like 20 hours per participant that they've been allocated to after plan delivery support. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I've seen it, I honestly, Cassie, I've seen it vary so greatly. I've seen people discover their plan on the portal, leave a message with a lack on the mobile and never get a call back, right? But I've also seen a follow-up appointment at the participant's home, and a great budgeting tool on a spreadsheet, and I've seen them show them the price guide, and so it is extremely variable. Sometimes I guess it's got to do with the culture of the organisation and maybe also their workload at the time, but you cannot guarantee it. Whereas a coordinator support, you're engaging them, you get to choose which coordination of support that you get. And coordinator of support, on the most part that I have seen, has been agency managed. However, there are plenty more people saying, hey, I want to self-manage my coordination of supports. It absolutely can be done. And if the LAC says, oh, I've never seen that, just go, oh, well, I'm the first one. Yep, just put it in. Yeah. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to do. And I've got the support, I've got the backup in my community to make it work.
Yeah. And just another point on the benefit of having a support coordinator is that they will connect you and your family with other supports in the community as well, not necessarily NDIS specific. And so rather than looking at your situation from just a one-dimensional kind of viewpoint, they're looking at it from a 360-degree viewpoint, and that's really going to benefit not just the person who is the recipient, but the entire family. And so from that perspective alone, I would highly recommend getting that put into your plans. Now, do you mind if we go back over some of the questions?
Yeah, let's do that now. Yep.
All right. So firstly, Liz said, once you contact, say, I think it's supposed to be DCSI, how long does it take them to organise a support coordinator? Any idea? So I'm assuming you're talking about putting your application in for NDIS, Liz. Yeah, I don't know if you've got thoughts on that, Sarah. I think that's what she's talking about.
Or she's not talking, so she's talking about she has a plan?
I don't think she has. So what I'm expecting is that, and Liz, I'm happy to talk to you, and I'm sure Sarah is as well. Oh, you already have a plan. So you can, I'm assuming, Liz, are you self-managed, plan managed, or agency managed? Because either way, I believe you can choose your own support coordinator. It's just going to depend. If you're agency managed, then you have to have an agency registered. You were told to ring. Okay, that's probably a LAC, I think, a local area coordinator. Liz, I'm happy to have a conversation because
don't wait.
Related.
No.
We're related, Liz, so I'm happy to have a conversation with you, sweetheart, and I can help you get through that. Yeah. Okay.
So if their workload is really, if their workload is really enormous, they can literally, can sit there.
It can sit there.
I mean, a really dire situation can be easy 6 months, because they're absolutely so swamped. So I'd sort of ring around and find out. And that was the other thing about choosing providers. Sometimes you do go with a registered provider, a big org and things like that, but at least you have the choice. You know, if you ring and they say, oh, it's a 6-week wait for an assessment, and then you go back on the wait list for a therapist or a service, at least you have the choice, will I wait or will I go and engage somebody else, you know? And it's all about choice, remember, because my decision will be based on different priorities to yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Liz, happy to have a look and help guide you, particularly because you're just up the road as well, and we're family. So what else am I here for if it's not for family, right? So thank you for that. Vanessa says, very overwhelmed with everything NDIS. After going to talks and LAC, not very helpful. We have a plan, not sure it's the best one, but still unsure about where to go from here. So, Vanessa, happy to have a chat with you, as would Sarah be as well. And I know that we've had some discussion before about that, and it can be really overwhelming, and I'm really glad that you're reaching out to ask for that support, because otherwise you'll be like I was initially, where I just didn't do anything because I was just so overwhelmed. I just didn't know where to go, and that was 2 years ago. So totally can relate to where you're coming from. But Vanessa, what state are you in? Because I think you might be closer to Sarah than me anyway, but we'll wait for your response. Yeah, so Vanessa, from memory, you didn't get everything that you were looking for. Okay, you've asked for support coordination and plan managed at your first meeting, but they ignored your request and gave you NDIS managed and no support coordination.
Yeah. Okay. Melanie, my first question is, how old is the plan? If it's only just been delivered, I would try and push back and get them to switch. The easiest thing will be to switch the management. Well, I shouldn't say the easiest thing. No. Based on my experience, they may change it to plan management before they will consider support coordination. The reason being, I think to add support coordination would probably require a review process. But I do know that people have been successful at switching their management style by literally pushing back hard and fast. So yeah.
So if you've got, sorry, go on, you go.
I just didn't want to lose Vanessa, so I just wanted to quickly say that my email address, and I'll leave it on the bottom of the event thing back in the group too, is Sarah, SARAH, @plantracker.com.au. So if you want to, you can either Facebook message me or you can email me if you want to talk about specifics with that other one, Vanessa.
Yeah.
So I've already organised a support coordinator, and I didn't have a phone call from ALAC, so my support coordinator put in a review.
And got them to change it, so it's changed. So it's changed now, Melanie, because that's what I was going to say. You can, in addition to pushing back, and if you really still feel that you've, I guess, decisions are unjust, then you do have the ability to put in an appeal. And there are centres all across Australia that are funded to help you with that, so that's not an out-of-pocket expense for you. So here in South Australia, there's Brain Injury SA, and there are other centres, and I have a blog which I can link into the comments here, just as a quick reference as to who's doing what across the country. Oh, so you did get it changed. That's excellent, Melanie.
Yeah, that's really, really great. Good to hear. Thanks for letting us know. And the other thing, what Cassie just said, I will add some New South Wales contacts to that, because I think that's so important, because we always go back to the agency, but there are also organisations and advocacy groups who are representing participants in a more formalised way, and they do connect with the agency at quite high levels. So, you know, obviously we're just trying to keep our ear to the ground and find out what's actually working and what's not working, whereas these organisations are absolutely brilliant. So I think we'll collate a little bit of a list as far as we know. Cassie, do you think that's good?
That's probably a good idea, because my old one is, well, yeah, it's old. It's like 18 months old. So it's probably time to put out a new list. And like you said, with some advocacy agencies as well included in there, because they do it day in, day out. They know legislation, they know what they're doing. So, and they're highly connected. Melanie said, oh, sorry. Teresa says, what type of activities does a support coordinator provide for self-managed plans? So,
that's a great one. Yep.
Did you want to start, or did you want me to start?
Yeah, so definitely that piece of, yeah, you've arrived with your funding, what are your options, and connecting those pieces. What do you need to see happen? What are your goals for this plan? What supports do you need practically in life, and then how does that fit into your funding? And definitely that budgeting piece, yeah. And I certainly find with Plan Tracker, as I said before, you know, we have a great working relationship with coordinators of support, and we find that sort of, you know, blend those two skill sets really, really well. Because obviously we don't have the great depth of insight, I think, into people's individual circumstances as much, and that's where sometimes we can just sort of provide a little bit of online, you know, what do you call, calculation, or, you know, specific tools, and then the coordinator can individualize that, I guess you'd say, individualize that to the participant. But yeah, do you want to go on in relation to the other duties? Or other, I guess, things that they could do? Yeah,
and I mean, the role can be really quite broad, and I think at the very core of it, it's like not just having someone to help you, but a cheerleader as well, somebody who's a connector, who can really understand from your perspective what's going on and what your needs are, and marry that with your plan, and then connect you with particular therapists or support workers or things in the community that are around you that will really underpin that plan to set you up in that regard. But outside of that, like I was saying before, is, you know, there's all of the community supports, be it medical or outside of that, that they can connect you with, including advocacy, including within, you know, school or work, or sporting activities or what have you. They have that capacity to, whether it's advise you or, you know, go along with you to advocate for the person with a disability to be able to integrate, you know, everything together. So that support coordinator does that, but they can also then assist you in collating and gathering reports, and at review time they can really thoroughly prepare you for the next review and the next plan that you're going to sort of embark on as well. And so I think they're a really great ally to have, and like you said, Sarah, working with all of the other people in the mix, whether it's your plan manager or whomever, and they do understand the legislation, and I guess they can take away a lot of your stress and overwhelm if you just kind of head is spinning on its axis because you don't know what to do. You can go to your support coordinator and they can really help you in that regard. But I would really urge you to choose carefully. Choose somebody that you feel incredibly comfortable with. It doesn't have to be the first person that you talk to, because whatever support coordinator you have, you need to feel comfortable with them, because otherwise it's just not going to work. It's an ongoing relationship that you will establish, and they need to understand you and be on the same page as you. And, you know, we're all got different personalities, so we're not all going to be a perfect fit either.
That is so true, you know, and I had the benefit of when my eldest boy, very first plan, and they said, yes, you'll have support coordination because you've got two boys coming onto the scheme, you know, two new plans quite quickly, close together. So it was great. It was great that I'd already connected with this person in the community in a federally another state-funded program, you know, before, in relation to community supports. So it was brilliant that she was doing the COS work because she knew the background of my family. She knew where we come from, and it was brilliant because I also used that. used it as a bit of a, what can you say, life coach, right? Because I
Yeah,
said, you know,
that's
like,
exactly
I
right.
know what I need to do and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to sit there and ring around all these new clinics. I need to find a new person. And I just don't, I just so overworked, you know, I knew I had enough insight into my own behaviors to say it's not going to get done and we'll be halfway into the plan. I said, and so she said, okay, well, but in 3 days' time, I'll ring you back with a short list. Then I expect you to ring and make a phone call. And she goes, I'll give you a week. So I'm like, great. I love deadlines. Right? I need a little bit of pressure. So that's what she did. So she narrowed it down based on my top 3 priorities, of what was really important. She narrowed down a list and she goes, here's the people I'm going to ring you in a week. I'm going to find out who we're going with, as in, you know, that worked for me. I needed that. I was able to sort of articulate that, and then she took it, and we rolled with it, and it was amazing. Yeah. So I think there is a lot of individualization, I guess.
Yeah, there is.
It depends.
I mean, from my perspective, I've had a couple of support coordinators, and I went down the support coordination path for a specific reason, and that reason was to really understand from a consumer perspective as to how they worked and what they did and that sort of thing. And from my perspective, is many can be really quite rigid and non-personal, and that for most people is just not going to work because we're not, you know, we're not pieces of paper and we're not statistics. So be very, very careful because you can have a beautiful relationship and, you know, essentially, like you said, a personal cheerleader who's really got your back. And this can be an incredibly isolating process and an overwhelming one. And that support coordinator is really there to take away a lot of that overwhelm, clear the fog and get you moving forward.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, I'll just check. Can I answer Fred's question now? What's the average wait time? The average, I don't know. I don't even know how you calculate the average in our situation. Definitely, I mean, if you followed up and I'm assuming they've accepted our application. Fred, does that mean you actually have an NDIS number now? I guess we just want to clarify exactly where you are up to. Yes, they do say to be patient. I don't really have a lot to add to that except you can keep checking in. You could potentially, you know, ask. Well, Cassie, do you have any local? I'm not sure where Fred's located, but do you have any local average wait time information, like feedback from your community in New South Wales? It can be literally, you know, 6 months. It can be 6 weeks. It really depends. Also, they run different processes. You know, 0 to 6 early intervention is a different process, of course, than
exactly.
7 and over.
Totally different.
A different.
And I think it even varies from, so whether you're north, south, east, west, you know, rural. And I think, you know, again, 6 weeks, 6 months, maybe more. And, you know, as a side note, and I don't mind saying this in public, if you're absolutely desperate and it's been 6 months and you are constantly ringing up to find out where it is, a local MP letter always gets things moving along nicely.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep. That's what we do. Yeah, no, we do that. Our local MP officers are well versed. The other thing, once again, you know how we were talking about those advocacy organisations, all those grassroots organisations in your community that are doing it. Check in with them as well. Again, support coordinators there, you know, they're often, you know, interacting with the agency quite regularly on behalf of people. So, you know, you'll always find, and isn't it interesting how Facebook can be such a wealth of knowledge, like about what's happening and sort of what's going on. But I think definitely staying in regular contact with the agency, and even if it's through a local MP, is your best bet. Yeah. And
I wouldn't worry about continuing to ring, you know, and bothering them. That's irrelevant. Just keep contacting them, keep up with it. So yeah, Fred, by all means, contact Sarah or myself. Sarah, did you want to repeat your email address again?
Yeah, it's Sarah, SARAH, at Plan Tracker, PLANTRACKER, .com.au. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll put it down in the
Yeah,
comments
that's right.
too.
So there's one thing we haven't discussed, and that's what Plan Tracker does. So,
Oh yeah,
really, yeah. So let's talk about that, shall
yeah.
we? And
Sure. So there's a couple of different prongs. So essentially, Elisa and I launched Plan Tracker. Well, that was a year ago, was it? Almost a year ago when our software went live. So the first launch aspect of Plan Tracker is a self-management app. Okay, so it's software for desktop and mobile, and it's specifically initially designed for funding that is self-managed. It takes you on a journey of entering in the plan from the paper, which is, what support budget you've got, the amount you've got in it. Then it asks you the really important question of what actual supports do you need in your life? Yeah. And that plan spending piece is the part that I spend most of my day in with individuals. It's carving out that idea of, don't just think about the dollars, think about the supports.
yeah.
And either put them on paper or enter them into Plan Tracker, and then see what type of overall view you get of your funding. So what happens within Plan Tracker as you're going through and plugging in some through that pathway is you reach a dashboard screen where you get an interaction of, okay, these are the supports I'd like to see happen across the year, and this is my funding, and it will give you it in various forms of graphs. Yeah, and it will give you an idea of, okay, if you're starting at the very beginning, obviously there'll be nothing spent, but some people jump on part way through the funding. So it will be amount spent, amount that you will be spending, if all these supports actually occur. So it's that plan spending piece, and then that hopefully chunk at the end where you've got a little bit of leeway, unspent, unallocated funding. That's a live dashboard screen. So it's constantly updating depending on two things, whether you're adjusting your budget or your plan spending. Yeah, so that's everything that's happening from today. You expect to happen from today forward. Yeah. And then everything you're tracking. So when you're tracking your actuals, what you're telling Plan Tracker is, yep, this support actually happened, tick. And then it turns into a payment pathway, which is, yes, I've paid the invoice, and you can record all that, whether it's uploading your invoice, on a JPEG, or you can take it on your phone or take it from your email and store it within Plan Tracker. Yeah. And then you've claimed it. Yeah, because everything goes through a pathway, and it's really important to remember it's not just about keeping track of the piece of paper as the end result. It's about thinking about the support. What am I likely to do in the how much money do I need to allocate for that, or to have that in my mind, and then did it actually happen, yes or no? And then if it's happened, where is it up to? Because sometimes you're not paying it straight away, or sometimes you are. Sometimes you're not invoiced for months later. I mean, I was invoiced for a support, one of my boys, like 11 weeks later, so in Plan Tracker, what I did is that support occurred and then it moved across. But Cassie, the really important thing, if the support has occurred, it's as good as spent.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. You need to know that. You need to know that as it's happening, because then you can open Plan Tracker and you can actually look at the amount of money that you've got, not just the amount that you have got, including what you haven't yet paid or claimed.
You've got a forecast. You've got a nice forecast where you can also identify gaps and change it live, basically. So you can, rather than having everything dancing around in your head, essentially, and thinking, oh yes, I've got about this much to spend and about that much to spend, or these guys are all contracted and getting to, say, 3 months before the end of your plan, or 4 months before you end of your plan, and you're all out of money. This is a real solid tool to be able to support now and in the future moving forward, plus capture all of your evidence as well.
Capture your evidence. So there is a download feature at the end of the plan. If you or if you audited, you can download the transactions, which will give you a lovely CSV file, which will all be all the entry along the way. It will also ask you, do you want to download your attachments, which will be all those PDFs, JPEGs, and everything that you've attached during the life of the plan, which will be records, or your auditing. You can also open up the future next year plan and start doing a plan spending forecast, and you can print that out to take the plan. If you want to actually, show the LAC or the planner what it looks like, not just talking concepts of goals, but go, well, look, this is realistically what we need, and this is the amount of money that's going to take, to reach that goal. That's really important to make sure that, everyone's clear what you're talking about at the meeting. Yeah. And so then sometimes we find that when we start talking in specifics, we start to understand what the objections might be, and we can address those in the meeting rather than ringing up going, is this plan that you sent me, So that's my personal preference, to put a little bit more detail as far as money concerned into my planning meeting. And I know that it's working for others that we're working with. But again, that's an individual process. So there is a lot about self-management that's still, I guess, being hashed out with the agency. We're ready to connect into the portal from Plan Tracker's side as soon as the agency allows us. So at the moment, you're doing your own budgeting, you're doing your own tracking, and then you have to go into the portal and do your clicking and, claim your money back. That's the reality of the process. Once the agency allows APIs and things like that, we'll connect straight in. Yeah, and then the process, I think, Cassie, will become even more streamlined and hopefully become even more valuable to people. Yep. So that's the we do self-management training, a capacity building item in relation to just all these thought processes and the functions that go behind it. Yeah. And then we are also Plan Tracker is also registered for plan management financial services in New South Wales. And when we get a spare moment to scratch ourselves, we'll look at registration in other states. But there's some really, really exciting things about turning Plan Tracker into a plan management tool. For participants as well. So what you will then find is that self-management, obviously the entire functionality and everything sits with you. And we're locked out, by the way. The only thing that we ever see is the number of supports, the person's account name, and the participant's name. Yeah. So, for example, mine would be on the database. It would be Sarah Harvey, and then it would be participants Ezekiel Harvey, Spencer Harvey, and it would be the number of actual, like supports I've logged. Like 50, 100, whatever. Yeah, off to the side. And that's the data that we actually see. We can't see anything else. Obviously, that's the way it needed to be built. Yes. And so it sits very, very securely along with a lot of other major infrastructure and things like that up in the cloud. Yeah. So I just wanted to address that too, because some people, it is your plan, it is your private, it is your own. But we have a tool that you can use with confidence that, if you want to engage us about, individual advice and things like that, but it's only what you tell us. Is what we see.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Plan Tracker, is that claimable if a person's plan is written in a particular way? Is it claimable from the NDIS or NDIA budget, or is that an out-of-pocket expense?
So all our self-management supports and services are nationwide. We're not, we don't have to be registered for any of those, of course. So we just service anybody that's within the NDIS. In relation to claiming the price of the software, which is $180 over the course of 12 months. So that's an upfront, so it turns out to be, what's that, $15 a month?
I think I just looked before, $15 a month, and I think you've got a monthly payment, which is a little bit higher otherwise, but you've also got a 30-day free trial as well on there.
Yes.
22.50 for 6 months and 30 for 30 per month pricing.
That's right. So if it's a 12 month, it's the cheapest, and then month by month. Yeah, that's right. So that's nationwide, and so is our self-management training and things like that. If you jump on for a 30-day free trial with Plan Tracker, then we're really keen to engage with you, whether that's an online Zoom session, kind of like this, and we can do share screen functionality where we can help you if you have any questions about onboarding, so getting your plan set up there, if you have any questions around all that type of thing, or if the questions aren't relating to the actual software at all, but if you just have some questions, like we said, about getting started, what can I use this funding for? I was thinking about doing this. What do you think about my plan? How can I make that fit? And also, how can I cover off the really big things?
Yeah.
You know, how can I meet reasonable and necessary obligations that I'm under with self-management? So that's nationwide. That's anybody. In relation to plan management service, that we can only do in New South Wales.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
But yes, we will obviously shout it from the rooftops once we are registered in other states, and once our plan management version of Plan Tracker is ready, then that will be amazing too. Yeah.
Just a couple of questions.
Oh, I didn't say, sorry, how do you claim it? Oh, sorry. The last bit was, so self-management capacity building is a line item that is included in core support.
Yeah.
It's not, you do not have to have it included written in. Yeah, if you are self-managing, it is implied that you can use capacity building supports and the costs, reasonable costs relating self-managing. Yeah.
Great. Excellent. Melanie says that, essentially what do we do with providers that aren't invoicing on time? So, for instance, she says that she hasn't, for one provider or a few providers, she got the service in October and she still hasn't received the invoices. That's a long time. I don't know if they'd be able to invoice you, would they? Is that 3 months? I'm sure I read 3 months.
Yeah. That's
go back and have a look. I think there's some rules around that.
Yes, there are, and I would. I mean, it also depends on where you are in the plan as well. You know, if your plan was about to expire, then I would certainly. Sorry, not expire, but you know, if you're about to end and go for a review, then yeah, Janet, I think you're right. 3 months claiming.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
I'd probably remind the provider of that first and foremost, and then remind them that if it's after that period, they're not coming to you. They're going to, they're going to have to figure it out with the agency and deal with the agency in relation to that. So, I mean, it depends on what management style you are, but
and Tracy, yes, the Plan Tracker service is available nationally. It's just plan management, so your finances and your paperwork, that is in New South Wales at the moment. Yes, that's correct, Fred. Plan Tracker is only available, Plan Management is available in New South Wales. Plan Tracker is available nationally. And
I think that document, remember how I said there is a self-management capacity building line item within core?
Yes.
There is a little, 5 pages or something on that. Yes. I'll make sure I include the link in that, because it's really important that people, understand that part. And I might pop our, is that okay to pop our brochure in the link as well? Because we've got FAQ on the back, which is just the 3 common asked questions. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, please. Any information for everybody is good information. So, yes, please. Now, does anybody else have any other questions? I'm just going to have a drink. I mean, there are so many elements to the NDIS, and we could have, hour-long conversations about every tiny little element. This is obviously an open chat at the moment, and we've covered some broad kind of topics, but I really wanted to, support Sarah and her, her company, but also just the fact that if you've got a really amazing tool like Plan Tracker to support you through this process, it's going to be so much less overwhelming. And this is really about setting yourself up for success, and
I also wanted to say that, like I said before, none of us are experts, but I have to really take a moment to express gratitude to all the people that I know in this NDIS space and the broader community who have invested so much time in supporting the community on Facebook. And so I have to say, every post from Sam at the Growing Space, I read with intent. with intent and gratitude.
Yeah.
That she put the time into that. Her content and her experience is so valuable, and she shares it quite freely and willingly, and that is just,
It's
you
a
know,
huge gift.
so for everybody. The organisation, the peer support networks. I know we don't have scope to talk about it today, but we're setting something up in our local community around peer support networks, and we're just trying to formalise some things a little bit more and create a little bit of a peer support movement, I guess you'd say. And I am so privileged to be on that working party and to see the beginning. And even though, like you said, this doesn't directly fit into an NDIS line item, but I can't tell you the value of it, because it really helps shape our ideas about the potential of what we can do with funding, and also being brave as well, and going, hey, this is our scheme, this is our scheme. Our feedback is important, our voice is important, our experiences are important. And while there is a time, and we will all face it, where all we seem to be is putting out fires or troubleshooting, and I have those moments too. You know, I went to my younger boys' plan review last Friday, and I've got to be honest, you know, it's that time you just feel a little bit crushed inside, you know, you really do, and that absolutely happened to me, and yet I spend my whole day in the NDIS price guide. Yeah, that was my experience. I don't want you by any means to say, oh, there's all these fantastic things. It's just a matter of knowing. We have to live it too. We have to experience it, absolutely too. But there's fantastic peer support things online, on Facebook, in your community. If you're ever in doubt about whether something's valuable, I say give it a go, turn up, find out, ask your questions. You'll always find somebody or something that is helpful to you. So that's my little piece.
Thank you. And that's the premise of why this community was started, was to have those peer supports, because there is just so much value in talking to one another and shared experiences. Sorry, there's a couple of questions here.
We can do the price guide.
So Sarah, can you please put the information about what you were doing with therapy aids in a comment? Thank you, says Louise, for the information. It's made a lot more sense now. I'm so glad, Louise. I know that you were really overwhelmed, so that's fantastic. Does Plan Tracker allow the user to enter multiple NDIS plans? I believe it does. So
yes, it does. Yep.
That's what I thought. And the price guide as well. The more we share, the more experiences that we all have, the better off we're all going to be. Holding your cards close to your chest is fine for some people, but none of us will move forward collectively if we don't share those experiences and what's worked and what hasn't. And again, no one knows everything, and we're all feeling our way. And so that's why we wanted to have this chat, just to share with you. So just to reiterate, you know, Sarah has developed an amazing tool called Plan Tracker, who not only provide you with the tool to be able to help you self-manage, but they can also do plan management in New South Wales. I'm currently doing support coordination work, as well as some mentoring and personal training for people with disabilities in particular, so which has been really, really lovely. But obviously I can't personal train over in Western Australia. I can do that here, but not over there. So you know, between us and all of our networks, if we don't know, we will find out for you. So
I was just about to say that too. I always refer to articles and blogs and other bits and pieces to help people sort of get a perspective around it, and share my thought processes as do you probably, Cassie, too. It's not just a, can you do this, can I do that, yes or no. It's, well, okay, if I was going to do that, I'd probably think about X, Y, Z, or actually this is the reason I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. And I think that's so much more powerful moving forward. Because you don't want to have either of us on your dial.
And I did want to make a point about you having just gone through your own review process. And just wanted to make a point that as a professional in any industry, we don't represent ourselves necessarily. So, for instance, a doctor doesn't treat himself or herself. You know, they have another doctor that provides that support. And when you are personally involved, you're coming at it from a personal perspective, and it's really important that you recognize that you still need and still worthy of having those supports as well. It doesn't mean you're anything less. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough at the job that you do or anything else. That we all need those professional supports, and we cannot physically as a human look at something professionally and personally at the same time and get the very best outcome. So that's also really important for us all to understand. You know, we expect that we should have to be able to do all the things, and you know, we all deserve some support, and it's okay. It doesn't mean anything other than, you know, yeah, we're worthy.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I so agree with that. And oh goodness, Kathy, isn't it amazing the things you learn and you grow, and then you think, wow, if only I had had this realization 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you know. But it is what it is, and you just have gratitude that you're in this space now, and you can sort of move, I guess, you know, move forward in that way.
And that's why the Carers Place is here, because, you know, we have been through all sorts of experiences, and if I can share my experiences with others so they don't have to do it quite as hard or as tough, then that's an awesome thing. So
yep, brilliant. Hey, thank you so much for having me for this chat. But I'm going to be around, so if people want to throw me messages, just, you know, in the group, and doing bits and pieces, and enjoying seeing your jump for joy post. I'm like, oh, I want to go back and comment on that one. I have something to write, so I must do that next week. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you're really open to just open conversations. And I think they're so valuable, just to start a conversation and see where it goes. I've certainly benefited from those over the years, so I'm so glad that we can do this together.
No, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll host another chat if any of you would like to hear another conversation, or for us to host another presentation about something. Please let us know. We don't know if we don't know, and I'd rather put information into the community that's extremely relevant to you and what you're experiencing, rather than pie in the sky stuff. So on that note,
we can definitely talk about more specifics and schedule that in the future. Yeah,
beautiful. All right, thank you everyone. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.